All right, cool. Now we got sound. Yeah, you guys should be able to hear me now. Um, I don't know why there's that. Let me do this. Boom. There we go. All right, you guys should be able to hear me now. We good? It's on a delay for my comments, but I think that we should be okay with the sounds good. All right, good deal. Yeah, right. Sounds good now. All right, cool. We're in here. We're in here. Well, it's loud. Yeah, okay. Let me turn my. Well, turn your volume down then. I can't control how loud it is on your end, but I'll give you guys. So I'm gonna go ahead and I just want to say hi, y'all. I'm gonna be spending some time. I got a call from my guy Justin Gaiman over here. You see on screen with us right now. He is the host of We Are One. It's a podcast based out of Minneapolis. Good dude. He's been out streaming. He's been out doing a lot of work on elevating his platform and developing his own personal, I would say, like personal understanding of kind of the world around you, Justin. Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, again, the way I'm doing this is I'm on Justin's show right now. So he hit me up and wanted to do a Q&A, which is cool because he's a great guy, and I'm looking forward to getting a chance to talk to him a little more about just life, about what we got going on. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw up the 30-second breakdown here, give everyone a chance to show up, and then we'll be back on in just a second, guys. Oh man, I should have brought a pen. I don't got a pen with me. All right, we're back. Go ahead. Just riffing. Hmm. It's you and only you. It's everyone. Everyone else is they're over it. They're not able to hear it. They can't hear Justin at all. Why can't we hear Justin? Man, come on, guys. All right. You're the first place number two. All right. Can't hear Justin. Let me figure this out, guys. We're gonna do this real fast. Uh, 1 second. Bear with me, guys. We are getting this figured out. Share with audio. Boom. You got me figured out, man. Got me figured out. All right, cool. So now I need to hop over here into my labs. Boom. There we go. All right. How we doing, guys? Can we hear Justin now? Justin, say hi. Here we go. Yeah, he says something. So let me know if y'all can hear him. It's gonna take a second. April, you and your creepy stick, man. You're gonna have to let me know real fast what's going on. She's got a screen like a place marker that's just no, always the technologies. What is happening here? All right, maybe it's something to do with the Zoom side here. Let's play with that. So I'm on a Zoom meeting right now. It might be. That's a lot of questions. Speaking of, guys, I don't know. So bear with me, guys. I'm going to figure this out. Let's see, test speak. So it should be. I don't know. We might have to just turn off the studio mic here and go off of. Yeah. Listen to my guy here. Okay. Well, but they can't hear you is the problem. So we're gonna play with this real quick. Okay, I still can't hear. I took the wrong button. Okay. Okay. Well, my people are calling me right now, telling me like, "Can you hear me, Justin? You can hear me, but I can't hear you. Why can't I hear you then, man?" I'll tell you what. Uh, man, we'll figure it out. Hold on. Hello. Hey, can you hear him in your earbud? Yeah, we're figuring it out, guys. Yeah. Uh, he can hear me. Yeah, I can hear him and he can hear me, but no one else can hear him. No. That's a good question. Where is it coming from? It's Justin. I like I love that my entire community. You guys are awesome because everyone's like, well, we need to. But here's the problem: is that if I unplug my headphones, uh, then I can't hear Justin at all. No, because I might have to do this real fast. Oh, wrong one. That was the camera. Wait for it; it'll come back on. Let's turn the camera back on here. Man, I'm just making a mess of everything here. Hold on. Just here. Don't, I'm going to let you go, Sham. I got to figure this out. You guys bear with me. We're going to get this figured out, I promise. Uh, but in the meantime, I'm going to unplug this mic here. And we're just going to go off the desktop mic. Hopefully, Justin, you can still hear me, right?
Yep.
Okay. And we should be able to hear Justin. The problem is people can't see me now. Okay, boom, boom. And we're going to go back into the Zoom call. Let me see, Zoom meeting here. Let's go ahead and turn this, start video. Okay, that's because, okay, wait. I think we almost got this sorted. There we go. And then we're gonna go here. Okay. How are we doing now? No sound? Come on. Okay, let's do this. I got it. We got this. We got this. All right. Share screen. I got it. Okay. Boom. Share audio.
We're solution orientated.
This is what we do. Okay. All right. Now we should be good. I know, guys. What can you do, right? I mean, come on. It's all right. So let me know if you guys can hear me now. You can hear me both. Justin, say what's up.
What's up? Raise your hand if you're mad. We can only see me and CJ, so if you're mad, I can't even tell.
There it is. There it is.
Just playing.
All right, cool. It looks like we're in here. We're good. We're good.
Right.
All this microphone and headphones and stuff. What are you gonna do?
Get out of the way. We don't even need it.
We don't need it.
Raw.
We move past it.
Shout out that laptop. But all right, well, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the We Are One podcast. Today I've got a pretty dope guest. We don't even know each other, so this conversation for the podcast is really us getting to know each other. And I mean, we've heard things about each other, I'm sure, or whatever. We got an opportunity to talk for about an hour now before I actually hit record.
Yeah.
Which usually I try to stray away from, but actually I thought it was really productive for us to get that little intro. You know, now you've gone from stranger to acquaintance. Now, hopefully by the end of the show, you'll be my friend. You know what I'm saying?
I like that. That's how you get to know people, right? That's how you make friends. That have conversations.
Yeah. So CJ.
Yes,
CJ
sir.
Halliburton. Is that how you say your last name?
It is. It is.
Welcome to the show, Doc. I didn't even say your name in that intro riff. So everyone knows CJ Halliburton from CJ TV. We got here right now on the podcast. Welcome to the show. Pretty simply, let's just get started. Who is CJ?
Who
are you?
Who am I?
In your own words, how would you describe yourself?
I'm a wayward traveler on a quest for self-discovery. You know. I don't know, man. You know, I think that's the beauty part about where I'm at is I'm trying to figure me out. You know, I know that where I was a couple of years ago isn't the person I am today. So, you know, it's an organic development, my life as it is right now, just continually growing and doing the best I can to kind of figure out what I want. You know what I mean? I'm getting older, getting a little bit older. I just had a birthday, turned 73, which is awesome.
73 years old, dude. You're the best looking 73-year-old I've ever seen.
I'm fishing for compliments there. It's the lighting, really, which did take me like an hour to get figured out. And he is not even all that good right now.
It was only like 20 minutes.
Was it?
Not an hour. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt.
I appreciate that.
Happy belated birthday to you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah. So just for anyone listening, just in the audio version, this is over Zoom. So there'll be like just a short delay between me asking a question and CJ answering, and we might try to talk over each other. We're not being rude to one another. It's just this delay with Zoom and the technology, because our internet's not perfect yet.
Yeah, we're working on it.
And I just got this cat yesterday that is going to be distracting me.
What's your cat's name?
The whole time. Halo. This is Halo. Yeah.
Okay.
I got to get her comfortable with my dog. As of right now, my dog is being somewhat neglected, unfortunately, because I think she's going to eat this kitty.
That's not good. You don't want that. That's not how you make your special lady friend happy. By letting your dog eat the cat.
Right. She would be pretty upset. But enough about the cat. Who's cute as fuck sitting on my lap right now. CJ, when did you start live streaming? I
started about seven months ago is when I first time I went live. It was about 7 months ago.
Tell me if I'm right. You're from Seattle?
I am, yeah. I live in Seattle.
And was it around like the time of Chop that had originally brought you out to start live streaming?
It's exactly what brought me out, actually. Yeah, there was a lot of questions that I had about just about the reality of what I was seeing in the news. You know, I saw a lot of stuff on Fox News that was kind of like, I don't know about that. And when I went out, and checked it out for myself, I realized just how far off it was. And because at the time they were saying there was like armed gunmen on the rooftops that were like exploiting the businesses that were but there was these like armed guards, all over the place, and I was like, well, they're going to see guns, but that wasn't the case.
I was hearing things like uh, what was the term? It was something like war king or something. Well, I can't remember the
Oh, the
term.
warlord.
War king. Warlord. Yeah, there we go. So I kept hearing terms like people saying there was warlords that have taken over blocks in Seattle.
Yeah, they were trying to say that like Raz Simone was some warlord.
That's who it was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Raz
Yep.
Simone. He's a local dude who was involved in the Chaz chop, as it worked out, and kind of wasn't as involved there at the end. I think, well, no one was really involved at the end. That's kind of why it ended, because everything's kind of faded away and just kind of fell apart.
That's you. You just kind of alluded to something that I've recognized through a lot of my experiences in the movement this year so far, being that there is absolutely a lack of leadership.
Yeah.
And it seems to be like a lack of people who are willing to put their name on the line for this cause that they're fighting for. Not that there's a ton of the people that are putting their name on the line, but when push comes to shove, there's more people running than are staying. It seems like, and that could just be from my perception and my experiences. But it sounds like what you just described with Chaz and it kind of falling apart towards the end, and it sounded like you mentioned like it didn't really have any leadership. It sounds like that's what you've seen also.
Yeah, there were so many leaders. What I saw was that there was there was just so many people that came out that wanted to take control, and I think that's the problem we have with a lot of things is that someone said something once that it really stuck with me, that most of us can agree on the disease and we can agree on the symptoms. We just can't seem to come to an agreement on the cure. And I think that's what happens a lot with the ideology that springs up in places like the Chaz, where we all saw things as we went out there and experienced them and could agree on them, but it was hard not being involved on a structural level. People, I think, had a real difficult time figuring out how to best take hold and harness that energy and to turn it into something that was going to really elicit real solid change. So I think we see that a lot with the movement and with protests and things that are happening now, is that people are really passionate about what they're saying, and that people are feeling really strongly about what the reasons they're out. And but it's hard because there's so many different people that are involved, and there's different views and beliefs that we stopped listening to the individuals and started trying to just let it be a generalization, but we can't generalize things like that anymore.
I think that's where we hurt ourselves, is when we like create like almost like a power vacuum where it's like we're looking for that leader to step up and be the one to kind of lead everybody down this road.
Yeah.
And there isn't necessarily anyone that stands out to me as a leader that I want to follow that has fulfilled that gap. And we kind of fall victim to nefarious and interests that don't have the movement and the energy behind the movement in mind. Like they have an ulterior motive to what their intentions are, because there aren't, like I said, from my experience, people that have stood out to me as people that I want to follow. I might be more susceptible to following someone that's like not passionate and trying to lead me astray. Yeah. I don't know if that makes sense.
Now, tell me. So I know in the comments here, we've got a lot of people are asking. They're trying to figure out the kind of the basis of what's happening here. So I'm going to explain it one more time. Yeah. So Justin, just so you guys know, is a podcast host on multiple on Spotify. You're on YouTube. You're also on Apple, right? And on iTunes. Okay. And so what we're doing right now, Justin had reached out and was looking to do a Q&A and just kind of get to know each other. So we but so that you guys could be a part of it, I figured, it'd be good to go live on this and just get a chance to talk here. So this is Justin. And now, Justin, you were out in the streets too. Like you're out doing a stream as well. Like you were out there.
Yep.
You've been out there doing it in Minneapolis, right?
Yeah. I mean, at the height of the uprising, riots, protests, demonstration, I'd say all those individual ways to describe what was happening, because it wasn't just a riot, it wasn't just a protest that was happening here in Minneapolis. There was a variety of intentions that were playing themselves out in the street. But yeah, I was out streaming the first march to the third precinct from the George Floyd Memorial here in Minneapolis, which turned into the beginning, the introduction into like the protests and riots that we've seen now throughout this year.
Have you ever live streamed before that?
Nah, just some like silly shit. I was because I've always wanted to kind of get into just independent media in general. So I've played around with just like Q&As and conversation style live streams before, but nothing where I like really took seriously and was like, this is like my platform that I'm trying to build, blah, blah, blah. Like until it wasn't at first when I went out live streaming here in Minneapolis at the kickoff of these protests and riots. It was just like, I need to capture what's happening on the street. I was trying to convey exactly like the feelings and the emotions of the people that lived in Minneapolis, because it felt like the mainstream media wasn't covering it the same way that I was experiencing it. So that was what kind of kicked me out to, I think you alluded to that before yourself, actually. It's the same interest, but that's what made me want to live stream this sort of thing in the first place. And then it wasn't until after like that first week of all this where I was like, I really felt, and maybe you can relate to this, but that there's just like this need for independent media and this live stream endeavor, right? There's this need to, like, it was clear the amount of interaction that I was getting on the live stream, especially from people that lived right in Minneapolis, that were like, holy shit, that's the grocery store that I go to, or like, no way, I live right down this street. Like, I'm glad that I can see what's happening like right down the street, because I'm too scared to go out there right now myself. Like, there was just absolutely a need to really cover what I was experiencing, because ultimately I was probably going to be there either way, live streaming or not. I was probably going to be there. That's just like the type of person that I am. I'm fucking curious. If there's something crazy going on, you can find me there. I'm going to be there because I want to understand for myself what's happening and why it's happening, the motivations behind the people that are looting and burning these businesses and all, this and that. I want to understand from the perspective of these business owners who feel the need to be in front of their business, armed to fend off anyone trying to come burn down their business.
Right.
Like I have this goal of just seeking understanding.
It's fundamentally basically what I'm doing as well.
I don't even know what I'm saying.
Yeah. I'm saying that fundamentally, basically that's exactly what my mission statement is all about. Just understanding, like trying to figure it out, trying to sort it out for myself and trying to figure it out for other people, and not figure it out for them, but figure out other people, kind of better understand where they're coming from. So what was that like? Now, what was that like for you? Keep going. Sorry, keep going.
No, I was just thinking how like ultimately I went live to show people what I was experiencing, but like ultimately my goal was just like give them an avenue to form their own opinion about it. Right. Yeah. Because you might feel this way too, but like the mainstream media wasn't giving people an opportunity to feel how they wanted to feel about it. It was more so telling you, this is what's happening. This is what you should believe, like where like me, I was just trying to take a step back, just describing the facts that I was surrounded with. And then whatever, a whole bunch of shit happened. But at the end of the day, it was just me showing you, this is what's happening. What's happening in this live stream is just my perspective and my experience. If you can say or think whatever you want, but I'm not here telling you how you should think about this situation, right?
Right. Just showcasing what's happening in front of you and asking questions and being open and curious to the answers. Do you now? I know I've experienced it. Do you feel that you're getting a lot of pushback from people?
I had for a little bit, like during the height of it. I personally haven't been out like live streaming quite as much, for multiple different reasons. But I would, mainly I'm trying to like elevate this platform of like the YouTube and podcast and create independent media to support people like yourself or like any other live streamers or not just live streamers but support all types of independent people that are on their independent grind,
Right,
right? So that's what I've fallen into most recently, where I'm not necessarily out live streaming. So there's like the live streamers seem to be the people that are getting most of the pushback, and that actually leads me into one of the questions that I had for you personally for us to talk about is do you think it's possible when you're live streaming or doing this type of coverage or work to completely set your own personal bias aside?
It's a good question because I push hard trying to, with the lack, we try to make it very clear that I'm unbiased, but to ignore your experience as playing into the way that you interact with the world around you would be ignorant, because I mean, so many of the things that I've gone through have put me in a position where I feel the way I feel, see things the way I do, and it's changed a lot from when I first started. And it's grown my understanding of not just what's happening around me, but how I interact and what my role is in the things that are happening around me. So I think that totally putting aside a bias um, isn't totally possible, but I think that what you can do is replace or just supplement the fact that there is going to be an implicit bias no matter what you do with open questions that aren't going to be driven towards a narrative seeking conclusion, and I think that all too often in a lot of the things that happen is people go into it with that mentality and that mindset that they want to get someone, they're trying to guide them and lead them to an answer that better suits that narrative. And what's sad is that a lot of times if you don't do that, people are kind of just conditioned to think that way. That's how their brains are wired to work. Like, well, I want them to get to the answer that I'm comfortable with. And when you're out there doing a live stream, you're asking people from different groups, from different sides of the coin and different walks of life, questions that are true to their answer and not the narrative that a lot of people kind of subconsciously are driven to think. It upsets them, and then they start getting upset with you for not asking them the questions that they feel that you should ask. Where when you step out of that bias and you're like, listen, I'm just really coming at it from a place of curiosity. Like we talked about before we went on cam, I just want to know what makes you tick. I'm not going to tell you if you're right or wrong. I just want to understand you better.
Mm-hmm. And it's I think it's interesting that I like the way you answered that for one, because I think I fall directly. I think you answered it almost exactly the same way that I would have. But being like, no, to answer my own question, no, I don't think it's possible to put your own personal bias aside. But I can change the way I interact with the people around me and not try to change their mind. Right? I can portray my own bias, I think, without being like, you're wrong, this is how you should think, my way is right, blah blah blah, and just take that like fly on the wall role almost of I'm just trying to understand what's happening here, like not that like super ignorant, like, oh, I'm neutral, blah blah blah, because I don't know if neutrality is necessary. I don't know. That's a whole other conversation. But I think everyone should have a hill that they're willing to die on, right? But without being married to ideas and without trying to change the ideas of other people.
I think honestly, like the hill that they're referring to, I think for me, I've kind of come to the understanding that those should be your ethics and your moral. Those are the two things that you should maintain. Like those are the two legs you need to stand solid on, and allow yourself through your views and your ideas and everything else around that. It's okay to have your mind changed. You know what I mean? It's okay to have people broaden the spectrum of which you operate out of, and to help you see things a little bit different than the way you currently do. Just as long as you stay true to your ethic and your moral. You know what I mean? And I think that's a big deal. You need to have a true North Star that guides you. But along that route, there's going to be a lot of windy roads, and a lot of people are afraid to travel those because they're stuck in their frame of mind, their center of focus, and but there's a lot of things happening around us that we can be open to. But now, let me ask you a question, because a lot of people are in some of the things that people are asking about is a story that I think comes out of something that happened for you while you were streaming in Minneapolis. And the question that I have is, I think a lot of people had for me was, at what point do you stop streaming or observing and get involved? And they were asking me to ask you about a truck driver. There was something that happened with you and a truck driver. Could you tell us about that a little bit?
You know,
are you okay? Do you want to talk about that?
Say again.
Do you feel comfortable talking? I don't know the story.
Yeah. I'm an open book. Ask me anything. Like, okay, cool. Whatever.
I'm so scared.
Ask me anything. If I don't feel like answering it, I'll just tell you. But for this, it's cool. This is good because I think this is an important, conversation to have. Because I know you yourself have fallen into quite a few experiences where you're interacting with the world around you for whatever reason, right? Yeah. And okay, so to answer your question, like, when I there was a couple experiences early on, like in the riots where.
And this is in Minneapolis, right? To be clear.
Yep. The Minneapolis riots in May. I think kicked off May 25th, going into the beginning of June, or May 24th or 20, whatever, to take a day or two. It was like the first day that I was out there that I felt necessary to interact with my surroundings in a positive way, where where intuitively I knew that I needed to interact with whatever was happening in front of me, right? And that's kind of just like my personality too. Like I'm not going to say I'm going to step up and be that perfect person and be a hero in every situation, but that's kind of my personality where, like, if I'm in public and I see someone getting, like, let's just say, like, emotionally abused, like screamed at, like, despite people, I support the right for anyone to live their own life and, do what they're going to do individually. But if I see something that is, like, obviously hurting someone in a detrimental way, I'm going to step up. I'm going to hopefully, at least, let me just say, I would hope to be the person that's going to step up.
Well, I think you can stake a claim to that. I think that says more to be, and I want you to continue, but I think that what that drives more of a direction on is your character, not so much your personality. Because I think your personality is something that we can enjoy, but your character is something we're going to love. Like, I'm going to love a person because their character is strong. You know what I mean? And I understand that. Yeah. I know, like, my friends that are near and dear, that are, cradle to grave type guys, like, I know where their character is. I know where they stand, and I know where they're going to be in my life, and my family, the same thing. So I think where you're coming from is, you're just talking about having a high character standard. You know what I mean? So please keep going.
And I actually appreciate that a lot. That's a good distinction for me to, like, draw. So thank you.
Yeah.
That it speaks more to my character, I guess, than my personality. And I would hope that that's the person that I am. That's the person that I strive to be, and I have my whole life, right? And when, as, like, young boys, you might be able to relate to this, but when you're, like, a young boy or young man, like, you almost always fantasize about being a hero in one way or another. And I think that's just common. It might be common amongst people, but I think it's common amongst men specifically. Like, we just want to be almost, like, not the savior, because that's something different, but, like, the hero, someone that steps up and puts their body in harm's way to save or protect another human being. Like,
you said it.
Something I've wanted.
It's putting your body. You know what it is? Because we grew up, I think, having heroes. We grew up with comic book heroes, people like Superman, Batman, and Spider-Man, people like, and Marvel's making their attempt at bringing that back. But I think nowadays, to talk into your point, is we grew up with the understanding that there's something powerful about saving a life, about putting yourself, like you said, in front of that speeding bullet, and we could idolize that, and the icons that we have now that we look up to have changed a lot. And the things that we focus our attention on have changed a lot, but I think
I think that's absolutely such an important conversation. Just that I'll probably keep saying that because we keep hitting shit, like, right on the head.
Right.
But when, like, our heroes today are, like, social media figures, like, like, he or she has 10 million followers, and like I was following them 3 years ago when they only had 10,000. Like, isn't that's crazy, right? Like, oh, I look up to this person, and it's like, man, but what qualities does this person have that you want to possess besides their like and follower count?
Yeah.
Right? Like the heroes, like when being younger and like looking up to, say, like Spider-Man. Like I look up to Spider-Man because like I want to be a curious, genuine kid, but with freedom that nobody knows about, to like serve and protect the people around me, and I can do it kind of humbly and not be the center of attention, right? You know, like that would be the reason I look up to Spider-Man. But looking up to like Kim Kardashian, like, granted, don't get me wrong, there's been some things recently where I'm like, oh, I think Kim Kardashian might be a little misunderstood. I like her more than I thought that I did. The media represents her in a way that isn't entirely authentic to who she is as a person. Right. But I look at that fake ass and those fake tits and that nose job and that face reconstruction, and I'm like, that's not you. You're not representing a human being. This isn't the way that you were born. Like, nothing against someone that wants to get plastic surgery. Like, you do you. Like I said before, like I support you doing things that you decide for yourself, like your individuality, whatever. But when you're trying to mimic a Snapchat filter,
right. Yeah.
Just that those are the heroes that I think people in society are looking up to nowadays.
Right.
And it really is like boiling over into just common people now, because we really do take on characteristics of people that we look up to, because of course we're going to do the things that the people that we look up to do, right?
You know what's wild is, and I want you to tell me the truck story too, but I was just thinking that the term civil servant came to mind. You know what I mean? And I think that when you're a kid, young people, maybe not now, I think now it's becoming very unpopular to talk about wanting to be a police officer or anything along those lines. But when you're a kid, those are the firemen, police officers, like, and the civil servant aspect. Like, I always thought as a kid, when I was a kid, I wanted to be my best friend's secretary, because I thought it'd be cool. I'm like, man, I'm on the front lines. I get to answer the phones. I run the business. And he was like, well, I'll be a lawyer. You can be my secretary. That'll work out really well. My parents never corrected me and were like, hey, maybe you should set your standards a little higher. But whatever, things change, right? You grow up. But that service aspect, I think that's like where we see a hero, like someone that's serving your fellow man. You know what I mean? Like, wow, they're really out there doing it. People in the army, whatever it might be, you know, when you're a kid, you see those things differently.
We're touching on so many different things already. Like, I love it. But one thing recently, I don't know if I asked somebody or somebody asked me or however it worked, but that someone asked a question that was something like, what's the future look like to you, right? And whoever answered the question said servitude. Yeah, and I think that speaks directly to what you're saying, is that, like, we need to open ourselves more to being of service to the people around us. Enough of this, like, because that's why this podcast is called We Are One, because in my experiences through addiction and homelessness and attempted suicide. I almost said suicide. Obviously, I didn't commit suicide. I'm quite alive right now.
I knew you were a ghost, man. I knew it.
Suicide and whatever it is, like, through my personal life experiences, one thing that I've come to deeply understand is that, like, you and me, we might not be the same individual, but we are one and the same, as in we have the same source. And what I identify as the source for me might not be the same identity of source for you, but I know that me and you come from the same place, and this, like, realm of universe and 3D experience isn't all that it is. Yeah. So to me, we are one, right? And that also, like, drives home, like, having to seek understanding in other individuals and understand why people think the way they do, because by understanding other people, we only come to further understanding of ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
We were talking about something before, and I don't want to get too far from it.
We were talking about the truck. But go ahead. What were you going to say?
Why? Okay, let me ask you first, because we touched on it before, and we touched on, like, intuition and moral compass, right? And maybe I should get back to whatever. We can touch on that after we answer. But moral compass and intuition, like, okay, so simply put, I guess, how do you, CJ, stay in tune with your moral compass? Like, how do you know intuitively what's right for you? Is it, that you just follow your gut? Is it as simple as that? Or do you have a practice that helps you stay in tune?
Um, yeah, yes, and yes. I do just kind of go off of life experience, things that I've experienced in life that have got me to where I'm at. Uh, and I'm Christian. I pray. Not that you have to be Christian to pray, but um, like I found myself in some really hard places, and I found that like prayer was a big deal for me. Like it helped me kind of recenter myself and better listen. Meditation I think is a big deal too. I think it slows you down a little bit, opens you up a little bit to hearing things better, to that frequency, the wavelengths that are going to help us better process. And it's funny because a lot of people are afraid to talk on that. They're afraid to talk on spirituality, and they're afraid to talk on beliefs. But I think that's what we're missing so much of right now. So I think like, and this is kind of what we talked about earlier. Like for me, like my beliefs have got me where I'm at. You know what I mean? Like my faith has got me to where I'm at. Whether I knew I was actively engaged and participating in the the doctrinal aspect of my belief, but having it there and having it be a part of my life has insurmountably made my changes in my morals, my convictions, my ethics. And those are the things, like I said, like you maintain your moral and your ethic. And it's where do those come from? Like where are we getting the input to help us better generate an idea of what our moral compass is, what our ethics really are. And for me, luckily it came from people. Like I had parents that weren't perfect, but they worked hard, and they instilled a lot of love in me, and they instilled a lot of respect for my fellow man and a lot of appreciation for the different walks of life. We moved around a lot growing up, and
Hold on, real quick.
yeah,
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. You just reminded me of. So earlier, I was producing a podcast for another group. They're doing a really dope broadcast. So I might as well shout it out. It's the Dialogue to Destiny podcast. Find it on YouTube.
there you go, Dialogue to
But
Destiny. I'll find it.
One person, they were a lot of the conversation today was about Black life in America, and part of the conversation started to talk about like unfortunately a lot of people have poor home lives where their parents are hooked on alcohol, hooked on drugs, or just have really bad mental health issues and blah blah blah. And one thing that he said was he was like, I'm something like I'm privileged where like my parents were on drugs, but not the same drugs that your parents were on. My parents were on the I'm gonna drag your ass out of bed type drugs. Like you're saying, like they were dragging me to do the things that I needed to do. And you just reminded me of that. I thought that was important.
That's funny. Just a different kind of shrug. Man, yeah. Yeah. So that's, I think for me is kind of how I know, and intuition is just life experience for me. Like I kind of know how I can read a room pretty well, and like I've never go into things surprised. Usually I'm kind of like, I understand where things are going to go or where they could go. So I'm always prepared for that. Not always, but most of the time. But then on a moral scale, like I said, it just comes down to, I think, the upbringing that we have. But to talk into that, I think really as a nation, as a people, we need to spend more time reinstilling these good moral, good ethic, good value, like building things up. I mean, we talk a lot about, and I ask this a lot, you know, uh, make a change. Like, what's it going to take to make a real change? And you hear a lot of different answers, and the ones that really resonate with me are when they talk about our youth. I talk to people in Louisville, in DC, in Minneapolis, in Milwaukee, in Chicago, in Portland, in LA, and Seattle. And the times that it comes up where I'm really like that feels right. That's when it really talks to my soul, is when they say we need to start teaching our young people a better life. We need to start teaching them how to love more, how to accept more, how to appreciate more, how to be more respectful, how to be more grateful. And some of those aren't just platitudes. Those are things that we really need to focus on. I think right now, like we've missed the boat on our focus point right now, because there's so much of this I want, me, my. And we forgot, like and I've said this before, but we need to stop thinking that we're going to see the change today. We might need to just be the farmers to put in all the hard work so that our children can till the crop. They might be able to have the opportunity to sow the rewards of the hard work we put in today to make that change. But accept that and stop expecting to get the gratification of the change right now. Just know that we might be meant to put in the hard work. And I think that that's an ethical thing too, is like the ethic, like hard work. My mom, my dad, both were like, you work, you bust your ass, you get out there and you earn it. And I think right now there's been a lot of focus on this overarching things, but underneath that, there's a lot of young minds that are missing some tender guidance, I'll say, an opportunity. And I think for me, I keep that as kind of I love talking to young people, giving them a microphone opportunity because I really want to know how they're heard. And so it's kind of a deviation maybe from your question originally, but I feel 100% that there's a lot of opportunity for us right now to give back, and stop judging people and stop expecting people to either be, and I want to talk to you a little about this too, about that whole with us or against us mentality, but appreciate that we're all trying to figure it out in our life. We're all going through our own struggles. Like you said,
it's a journey, bro.
It's a journey. Like you said, it's a journey.
It's a journey.
And what an amazing journey it is too, right? Like how incredible is this life that we can be so close to death and then come back and be so full of life, that we can be so far away from where we're at now. And then to look back and see where we've come, and then to appreciate how far are we going to go, like where is this going to take us, and stop trying to chop people down and build them up and help them get there.
If we want to talk about privilege, we should also consider the privilege to be alive.
Sure. Absolutely.
You know how many sperm I'm spreading constantly that aren't birthed into anything?
I don't. I don't think a lot of people want to know that.
I don't want you to even think about it.
I am now. Thanks a lot, Justin.
But like, I got a girl. I'm not a whore. That's not what I was implying. But like us, just like the possibility of us even being alive within this universe, within this earth, within this country, within whatever state you reside in, whatever, the possibility of you being alive is less likely than you not being alive.
That's a good point.
You might as well be grateful for it and do like the best with it that you can. Right?
Yeah.
That's a part for me. What like kind of keeps me in tune is just considering that, like when I look up at the sky and I get amazed at how many stars there are out there. I'm like that. It reminds me of that. Like I'm alive, and in some ways I must be here for a reason. Right.
Yeah.
And I think everyone really has like a purpose.
Oh, absolutely.
And do you mess around with psychedelics at all?
Nope.
No.
No.
Because psychedelics is another way that personally I have managed to stay in tune with like my moral compass, my spirit, my intuition, myself as an individual. The question we can go, this can take us back to like the question of the truck driver, right? Mm-hmm. And talking about that truck incident on 35 on a Sunday during the riots and whatnot. Long story short with that, I found myself at a protest one day after an already long ass week of protesting and covering what was happening in the streets. It was a protest that, it was during the day. The sun didn't go down. I was like, wow, I can be out here and not be stressed. Like I can be out here with this giant group of people, and this isn't violent. It's not destructive. I don't have to worry for my life. I was like relieved to be here this day.
Yeah.
And I was supposed to tie in psychedelics with all this. Maybe I'll probably get back to it. But the long story short with that, there was an incident where a tanker truck had found its way onto this bridge that had, 2,000 to 3,000 people on it at one point in time, all packed in this giant crowd. And this truck was driving from quite a ways away, found its way like in the midst of this crowd.
What was the temperature of the crowd? Like what was the feeling in the crowd? What would you say?
Before or after the truck? Because they contrast.
Before the truck.
So before the truck, it was light mood, kind of like party vibes. I kept seeing a bunch of people I knew that day. It was just like, what's up? How's it going? Can you hug? It's been a minute. Like it was almost like celebration vibes, right?
Okay.
Like there wasn't necessarily anything to be celebrating, but the mood was high. It was positive. It felt like spiritually welcoming, if that even makes sense. It felt like personally I was settling into like my I was settled. Like I was settling into this place. Um, and yeah, to be honest, too, before we even get too much into it, part of me feels like I haven't like recapped it enough yet for myself to really even understand it because I'm sure you can share in this experience, but a lot of like the experiences out live streaming and getting this coverage and whatever is fucking traumatic. Dude.
Yeah.
It's quite literally traumatic. I have experienced like there's certain things that trigger my anxiety so bad, and I know that it's specifically rooted in my experience during these protests and riots that it's like borderline post-traumatic stress, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of like the experience with this truck incident is still kind of like it's there. Like I get it, I know it, I've examined it a little bit, but I don't think I fully really even understand it.
I completely understand what you mean by that, though. Yeah.
But sorry, I should have let you respond, but I'm just gonna keep going.
You're good. You're good.
When I think the curiosity of like what happened in that incident, in this tanker truck ended up in the midst of this protest. A lot of the group, responded with anger, as if the reaction was like he was there on purpose and he was trying to kill people in this crowd. That was the immediate reaction, the immediate judgment made by a lot of the crowd. So this tanker truck found its way in the midst of this crowd, a bunch of people scattered, screams, people scared.
Did he come in hot? Like, did he come in hella fast or?
Well, yeah, I mean, initially he was coming. So the interstate at this place, I want to say, is 65 miles per hour is the speed limit. And he had been coming from 100 or 200 yards away. I think they said that he should have been able to see the protest from over 100 meters away. I could be wrong. Don't quote me. So he was coming pretty fast, but eventually he was slammed. He was hitting his horn and slowing down as he got closer. But I think the driver himself had said he expected the crowd to disperse if he just kept driving. He was hoping, like, I'm in a hurry. I got to get through this crowd. Hopefully they move.
Yeah.
And the crowd didn't really move.
He obviously did not see what happened in, down in LA. You know what I mean? With people like Reginald Denny. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't even know who Reginald Denny until after this incident, where people were like telling me like I saved another Reginald Denny incident from happening.
That was horrific, man. That was just a terrible thing to see. But so yeah, proceed.
So yeah, I mean, long story short, to not spend too much time on it, the truck driver drove into the protest, ended up coming to a stop. I was up standing like on like a median of the interstate, because when he was coming, I was on the southbound side of the interstate. He came going north. So I hear everyone yelling like, "Oh, everyone watch out, there's a truck." You hear some screams. I jump up on this median, and then you see this truck pass right in front of me, and it's slowing down, it's coming to a halt. And a lot of people are scattered, and there's kind of like this pause of like, okay, now what's going to happen? What comes next? Right? Because this truck had come to a complete stop. And, somehow, by the grace of God, and probably in support of like psychedelics and my own personal, I think effort just of like personal growth, I was able to like maintain composure at this moment, where instead of like freaking out and just reacting, I understood that best case scenario, I'm going to take a second, two, maybe three, to respond rather than just react, because that's just what I learned has the best outcome, is if I choose to respond rather than react. So I'm standing up on this median. Wait, sorry, what?
No, I said I say that all the time. Don't react, respond. Take a minute to respond.
That's so fucking important. And I think that saved my ass more times than not when I was experiencing the height of like some of the shit. But standing up on this median, truck comes by. I'm trying to figure out how to respond. I see the reaction coming from people being like, "This man was trying to kill us. We need to hurt him," right? Basically, people weren't necessarily saying that, but a lot of people were like, get him," right? And that was when people were like kind of chasing the truck down, because at this point he was still kind of driving or trying to drive, like he's trying to fish his way through the crowd, hoping people would move aside, only going like 5-10 miles per hour. People were throwing their bikes at it, trying to get it to stop. There was a guy stabbing the tires, trying to pop the tires. There was at one point someone was holding a gun up to the truck driver, like point in his face, trying to get him to stop the truck.
Yeah.
Eventually, again, the truck stops. People rip him out, and at this point, I'm like trying to run up to the. Well, they hadn't ripped him out yet, but at this point where someone was like stabbing the tires and they were all going crazy trying to get the truck to stop, I'm like running up to the truck, to the driver's side door, trying to get people like stop. Like, so for one, in my moment or two of trying to figure out how I'm going to respond rather than react, one of the things that I thought was, we don't know what the intention of this truck driver was.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're out here supposedly fighting for justice, like that justice should come in equal shapes and sizes, right? Like it shouldn't matter who you are, where you are, or what. If we're fighting for a just justice system, we're going to give this man his day in court and figure out what the fuck was happening here, right? We're not going to be the judge, jury, and executioner on the street like we're supposedly protesting against with police, right? So that was my response, was like, I felt the need to save this man from getting murdered on the street, like we just watched George Floyd get murdered on the street, because we need to set an example for what justice looks like if that's what we're out here fighting for. So I'm running up, I grab this guy who's stabbing out the tires. I tell him to stop. There's a guy holding his gun up to the window. I'm trying to get people out of the way. There's people on the hood of the car, like trying to bust in the windshield of the truck. At one point, I'm like standing on the side stairs, like waving my hands up, trying to get as many people's attention as I could, like stop, stop, whatever. And eventually I got off down from there, and I was talking to people, getting them to stop. And then the truck driver had gotten ripped out of the car, and people were, taking turns trying to punch him and kick him and all these things. And I won't take like sole responsibility for like saving this man or anything, because it was a group effort at the end of the day. And eventually we formed like a human wall around this truck driver, trying to push people. Like, he's behind me, we're trying to push people off, and, trying to yell at people to stop, and a lot of different things that were being said. But a lot of it was kind of what I just said, like stop, like we can't do this, like blah blah blah. And
were you trying to get him? Were you trying to get him out of the crowd, or were you just trying to get people in the crowd off of him?
No, so we weren't necessarily trying to get him out of the crowd per se, because that wasn't necessarily an option. It was just getting people off of him, right? Like I hate to say this publicly, but I do in some ways feel this way, and it might be kind of a self-centered, like egoic way to think or feel about this situation. But part of me does feel if I wasn't there, that man would have died. And I haven't said that, I don't think, to anybody. Yeah. But I do think that and I'm not saying that I was the key that saved this man, but I think I was a part of this smaller group of people. And maybe if I was in there and one of the other guys wasn't in there, it might not have worked, right? So it was just like, it worked out perfectly where we were able to kind of save this man. Eventually, police showed up, and we delivered him to the police to properly be arrested. And then,
yeah. That's I absolutely know exactly what you're talking about. With that's wild. I mean, that's scary. That's a really scary situation, especially when you say there's that many people, and you don't know how they're going to react to you, putting yourself in between them and that mob mentality. Because the mob mentality, especially for anyone that's watching, if you guys haven't been out in this situation ever, that mob mentality is palpable, and it's scary as hell, because the logic and reason, everything goes right out the window, and it's just people acting on their baser primal function. It's very primitive.
I think it's a symptom of low emotional intelligence.
Or just that reaction. People are very reactionary, and they're not responsive. And I think the difference between the two is a reaction is lack of control, and a response is controlled, a controlled thought process that goes into your views on what just happened. And that's where they say when someone can force you to react, they take control of everything that you do, but if you just respond, now you've taken your power back. But I know down in Portland, a similar situation happened. I was just wrapping a stream and I handed it to my partner at the time. And right then a guy goes by, he walks by me, and he had a helmet on and ski goggles and these overalls and a bandana, if I remember right. And everyone's like, he just stabbed somebody. He just stabbed somebody, get him. And this whole group is starting to chase him down. And I was like, oh man, this is crazy. And I looked down, he's got a big knife in his hand. I was like, oh, well, maybe don't attack him because he's got a big knife in his hand. But the way it went is exactly like what you were saying. Like people just started jumping on him and beating on him and smashing him, kicking him in the head. And at first it was like I was trying to pull people off because he was swinging this knife around. And then it was like, all right, we need to stop because they're gonna kill this guy. Like, they're gonna murder this guy. And it was the same thing. It's like we can't out on the streets judge what happened or why it's happening, but like let the police do their job. You know what I mean? Like that's their job.
Let them do it. I mean, that's personally how I feel too. It's like it felt like counterintuitive to try and be the ones serving street justice when we're at this protest chanting no justice, no peace. Like if we're taking on this role, I say we just because I was in the group, but I don't know.
Yeah,
that's a whole nother thing. But I burped and then forgot what I was saying. But if we're, I think I was saying something like if we're at this demonstration and we're chanting no justice, no peace, what type of people are we to not allow justice in the way that it operates currently to be served?
Sure.
Right?
Sure. Yeah.
So just to move on in the conversation a little bit,
good.
What the fuck? What was CJ doing? Dude, you're 73 years old and you've been streaming for less than a year.
Yeah.
What were you doing before this live streaming endeavor?
Sales,
independent media grind.
Yeah, no, I was in business to business sales, doing the corporate grind, doing the business to business sales, and I had an idea of wanting to do a podcast, and it's funny because that's why I had that microphone, my initial mic, the OG mic that I've got.
That was the first mic I bought for podcasting too.
Was it that Samson?
Yeah. It's like $100 on. Oh, you're talking about the Yeti or no?
No. Like my mobile mic, the one that I took out in the field with me.
Oh, okay. My bad.
Yeah, no, I took that one with me, and so I had my mobile mic set up, and I figured it out. And but before that, I was planning on doing some speaking. Like I do work with kids. I do work with a program seasonally called Peak 7 Adventures. And I do work with at-risk inner city teens, kids that are in foster homes or that are just dealing with a lot of issues. They're kind of going through the problems of kind of being stuck in a unsupported environment. And and so we have
so much more in common than I think we realized.
But what's crazy is that I think is symptomatic of so many people, but we never get a chance to talk about that because we're so busy trying to categorize people. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so looking past the categorizations, but so I do, it's outdoor stuff like rock climbing, camping, river rafting, things like that. And
all that shit you wish you were doing as a kid.
Exactly. And it's so cool to watch these kids do it, man. I'll tell you, like, some of the things, like, I remember the first time I went rock climbing with these kids, I was belaying, right? And in rock climbing, what belaying is you're the one on the ground that has a harness set up, and the rope goes all the way up to the very top, and it goes through a feed and comes back down, and it hooks up to the harness of the other person climbing, right? And so as they climb, you tighten up the slack. So if they fall, you have that leverage point to keep them from falling all the way down. At first, all these kids that get there, and they're these young kids, a lot of them never even been out in the woods before. They're looking up at this cliff, and they're like, "Nah, I'm good. Not happening. Not gonna happen." Like, and they kept saying things like, "I can't do that. I can't do that." And I was like, "All right, so let's figure it out." And so the first thing we had to do was work on trust, which is getting them into a harness and having them go up like 2 or 3 feet and then lean back into the harness and trust the fact that I'm a big guy. I'm going to hold them up. I got you. You know, you have to trust me. Like that's the first thing we had to work on was trust. Like just trust that I know what I'm doing and I'm not going to let you fall. Like I got you. You know, and a lot of these kids, I didn't realize like for them, it wasn't just about the physical aspect of climbing a rope or climbing a wall. It was entrusting another human being. Like they had been let down by so many people in their life, you know, going through different foster homes and different situations that had them feeling neglected and unloved and unwanted, unappreciated, you know, unsupported. And so to have somebody reach out to them and say, hey, I need you to trust your life in my hands right now. Because that's how it was for them. Like it's life or death. Was a big deal. And at first, and these are like the things that happened through my live streaming that I've slowly come to figure out that there's a lot more happening around us than just what we see through our camera. Like your involvement and your interaction and all the things that build around, you know, this camera, these streams.
All your actions have ripple effects. I think
Absolutely.
That's kind of what you're saying.
Absolutely, yeah. And those ripples are the ones where the real things are taking place. Like life is happening in the ripples, you know. Mm-hmm. And so these kids, and then you'd get them going up a couple feet, and then a couple more feet, and then before long they're climbing, and you'd get them up to a point where you're like, all right, now just lean back and look around, like take in where you're at, you know, appreciate the view from this new 20-30 feet up on a cliff. And they'd stop and look around. It went from I can't do that to like, look at what I've done. You know what I mean? Look at where I'm at. Look at what I've accomplished. And I go back to, I'm on a real positive kick lately, so I'm going to go back to this probably a lot with the positive vibes. But and so you see these kids and they get there and they're like, man, I'm here. And then it went from I can't do it to these kids were like racing to see who could get to the top faster, you know? And so they were challenging each other. So we'd have two people belaying and I'm doing it as fast as I possibly can. And these kids are just little spider monkeys just climbing up these cliffs super fast. And so the lesson that I learned at the end of all that, I mean, not that this is exactly what you asked me, but was just that. Well, I always do a Q&A. I'm like, what was the hardest thing that you had to accomplish? And what was something you learned today? And they all said, almost 95% of them, every time I go up on a trip, like the hardest thing was learning to trust you. And I learned that I can achieve things that I never thought I could before. You know, like I'm able to do it, you know? And so now these kids can go home and say, hey, I'm a rock climber. I can climb rocks. You know, yesterday I didn't feel like I could trust anybody in the world. And now I can climb a mountain, you know, and it's just powerful to see the changes in people. And I think that goes back into like what happens with a lot of the things that are going on here is that, you know, we instill trust in each other to know that like you're going to support each other no matter what, you know, I got you, you know, but we can accomplish great things.
That's so important, dude. Cause like, bro, for me, I'm only 24 and I feel like my lack of trust for other people for good reason. I don't trust people for very good reason. I've been shown that for an extended period of time in my life that I can't trust people, but my lack of trust in people limits me today. Right. Like if I was more willing to trust somebody else in, you know, if I could delegate just like uploading the podcast to YouTube and feel confident in that person to carry out that task or trust that they're going to do it the way that I've asked them to, like shit with just like small things like that, like things would be so much easier. That takes me to I guess wanting to know a little bit about like the evolution of CJTV and how have you gone from being just independent, just you going out, checking out Chop, hitting live on your phone to putting a team around you that you can trust and people that you're confident in. How does that, like if you were to like just mentor me for a second, like what would be the first step that you think I should take to try and build a team around this platform?
Just hit live, you know, people will find their way to you, you know? But I mean, it's hard to really give a course of advice because I'm still figuring it out for myself. But I'll say this. So like when I started, like legit, I just went out. Curiosity was my driving force, you know, like I was curious. So I went out, I wasn't even holding my phone the right way. And I think all of us started the same way. We all were like, you know, holding your phones like vertically and you're just walking around and you're kind of like looking at things.
I'm so embarrassed by the vertical live stream.
Right? So you get it, right? So you start off and you're kind of like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. And then you get a selfie stick and you figure this out. And then you're like, oh, okay. And and then you feel stupid because you've got a selfie stick and you're like, oh man, I'm one of those people with a selfie stick. But you keep going and you keep going. And I just started interviewing people. I was curious. So I had my cousin Brandon was with me, and he would hold camera and I would just walk around talking to people. And I found that other people were really curious about the same things that I was curious about. And so I just kept asking those kinds of questions. And I didn't have any mods. I didn't even know what a mod was. Big shout out right now to my mod squad. You guys are all amazing. Like my support team from top to bottom. Not that there is a bottom, but all of you guys, new and old, that have been with me from the jump and that are brand new. Thank you. You guys are incredible and you make all this possible. But what happens is you go into a place where you just get into a flow. And you're like, this is just what I'm doing. And I kind of felt an obligation to be out there every day. I'm like, oh, I have to go back. I have to go back. I have to go back.
So glad you said that.
Yeah, and then I ran into another dude. I ran into a guy, Ian, and we kept seeing each other in our streams. We kept crossing streams. You know, like we'd be doing. I'd be filming, and he'd walk by, and we'd have to do the over under thing. You know what I mean? To not block each other's camera. And then one day I just wrapped my feed, and I was in the park out in Cal Anderson Park in the Chop. I was a Chaz at the time, and he walks up and he's like, "Hey man," I think he was still alive. And he's like, "What's up? How you doing?" My name's Ian. I was like, "What's up, Ian? How you doing?" And he was like, "What's your name?" And he's like, "You're CJ." And I was like, "Yeah, what's up?" You know, we introduced each other kind of formally. And he was like, "Can I ask you a question, man?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Are you a cop?" And I was like, "No, not at all. I'm a janitorial supply salesman." You know, and basically he was like, "Oh," and he gave me a big hug. He's like, "Thank you, man. That's so good because I really want to get to know you a little bit. I want to talk to you." And so he and I kind of collaborated, and then we started working together. And we kind of had and he was a big part of like us figuring out like the direction we were going with things. You know what I mean? And the infrastructure was kind of in play, and I kind of started figuring it out as we went along. You know, and let him do the technologies because it was never my jam. And that's where the mods started. What's up?
Take me back to the trust piece, because that's like, I'll just reiterate, like that's where I personally struggle. Like I've had at least 10 people at this point who in some way were supporting what I'm doing and supporting the platform. But it's not that I don't trust these people. It's just that our relationships kind of start to dwindle because the responsibility that I'm expecting them to do, I just eventually do just add to my own slate because I just trust myself more to do it than anybody else.
Yeah. I get it. But I think for me is I didn't know enough to know what not to trust. You know what I mean? Like I didn't know. I didn't know where I was at with things. So I didn't know what to do or where I was supposed to be doing something and what I was supposed to do with certain things. And I still don't have all the answers, you know. And but when it came down to it, I was just like, I'm gonna just keep taking steps. And I told myself consciously, I was like, I'm gonna walk through whatever door is put in front of me. I'm just gonna walk through it and experience it and learn as I go. And so things would happen, and I'm like, all right, well, that's just what I'm doing now. And so there's things that happened, and even with me and that team, that it was with me at the time, we went our own way, and you kind of grow into people and grow out of them, and that kind of happens. Even currently, I'm going through that with some other people, but it's okay. You know, it's all right. Like we've all got our own mission. We're all on our own path. You know what I mean? So we're all growing and iterating, and that's what it came down to. Was just kind of on the fly. Like something would happen. I'm like, all right, well, I'll figure it out. And so as people started getting more involved, um, you don't know. I mean, it's tough because some people come in and you put a lot of faith in them, and it doesn't work out, and that's okay too. Just like any relationship, you know. And so you have to like move into different places and have other people do different things, and it just comes down to a point where you just stay organic. I think that's the biggest thing is just stay as organic as possible.
I think that's important, and we should talk about that next because I'd like to hear more of what you think about just like authenticity and being organic and being yourself and the attraction that kind of has to in it. Like that's an attractive trait is just being authentic. Like I don't care what you look like, but if I can tell that you're yourself, I like you.
Yeah,
know,
right.
like,
I completely agree with you.
what was I was gonna ask you a question. Oh, hold on. I only had part of it. Give me a second.
Take it.
Um, okay. So for the trust factor, like in large part, I think exactly what I'm scared of is being let down.
Yeah.
Like I can't, like, I don't do very good with disappointment. Like, don't tell me you're gonna do something that I'm like totally relying on for something that I'm excited about, and then not do it, because that like, unfortunately, my current way of like coping with that, it might interfere with what I'm trying to do in the first place. So please do not let me down.
Totally. I mean, absolutely. And it's hard because in this game, I think this is a new, it's a new format. I think for a lot of people, for me, it is. I know for a lot of people on my team, especially, we're all kind of learning, we're all kind of figuring it out as we go. And so it's kind of tough to know what you're supposed to do and how you're supposed to do it. And so, and you don't really know where the focus needs to be until you kind of miss it. And then you're like, all right, I need to backtrack and refocus, and those are the things that you have to be open to falling down. Like I learned more through mistakes than I ever thought I would, because that's the only thing I'm really learning from right now is like, all right, that's where I screwed up, and you just keep doing the right things, do the next right thing. But it's when something goes wrong, those are the educational times. And I think people try to move away from that. Like, like, I don't ever want to acknowledge my faults or my shortcomings, but it's like, those are the learning points. Those are the times when you're educating. Like, it's the agitation that makes the oyster or the pearl. You know what I mean? Like, good, you got something.
Pressure makes diamonds. Right?
There it is. You know what I mean?
It might be your least favorite cliche, but God damn it, it's true. A little bit of adversity. Like my favorite people, the people that I look up to, have faced adversity. They've been addicted. They had parents that abused them. They were discriminated against and trying to get a job in the specific field that they educated themselves for 10 years on, right? Like those are the people that I look up to the most, because that adversity and that lack of privilege is what makes them the people that they are. So yeah.
Agreed. I like what you said though about being authentic, and it's funny how much grief you get for just doing you. You know what I mean? Like people will be like, oh, well, you're supposed to be like this, or you're supposed to be like that, or this is what I think you are. This is what I think you should be. And it's like, well, everyone pump the brakes, man. I'm going to be 100% me.
You know what I'm supposed to be?
Tell me.
Like, might sound arrogant, but I'm supposed to be the opposite of what you tell me I'm supposed to be. Like, motherfucker, you don't know me. I'm not supposed to be shit. I don't have to do shit besides eat, sleep, and shit. Like, I'm supposed to be me. That's what I'm supposed to do.
I'll tell you what the problem I have is when someone comes up to me and they're like, you know what your problem is? And I'm like, stop there. My first problem is that you think you know what my problems are, because I don't even know what my problems are yet. Like, I don't need you telling me you know me better than I know me. I'm still trying to figure it out. But let's have a conversation. It doesn't start off with you telling me all about me. Let's just talk.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But honestly, this isn't me retracting. This is me also saying, in addition, I would like to hear your opinion and your perspective about me.
Absolutely.
But don't tell me as if you, like you said, like you know better than I know.
Yeah.
Right. Because me, the best is me, motherfuckers.
Man, it's funny now too, because like, especially in this week, this last week has been a big deal because of coverage that I did on the Proud Boy rally in Portland, or in DC on last Saturday. And it wasn't even a Proud Boy rally. It was just what coverage that I did in DC. You know what I mean? And people are like, oh, he must, we thought he was with the movement. He must not be this. He must be this. He must be that. And they're formulating all his opinions, but like, no one ever stops to be like, well, what are your views, man? What do you really think? Like, what do you think? And when I'm out doing a stream, it's not my job to be out there educating people, because I'm still trying to figure it out. I don't have answers. I'm just trying to look at it, experience it, let everyone experience it with me, and let them figure it out for themselves. You know what I mean?
So what got misconstrued in that? Because I didn't look into it, because honestly, I don't care about nobody else's drama.
Right.
but I'm curious your perspective and your experience in that. Like, what got misconstrued in you in that coverage, or like what are people talking about?
It was just how close people said that I was to that group, and the overall view of that group. What people missed was that group wasn't 100% what I was following. I was out there for 13 hours, and that was like a small part of my entire day. But they said, people felt that I was too close to them, or that I was being too friendly with them, or whatever it was. But I was like, man, like I've been covering so many different groups. Like I've been in a shield line, you know what I mean, in a protest where I'm having to like hide behind shields and getting shot at by like impact rounds from the police and federal agents. And people don't assume immediately like, oh, you must be, you must be a terrorist, or you must be this. People will assume that, but it's whatever. People are going to make assumptions, but like I'm friendly to everybody I talk to, you know what I mean? And then I see things that happen and it might disgust me. But again, it's my job to watch, to observe and let people be involved with that observation. But I think there was one point when like Enrique Taro is like the chairman of that group, and they had just had a big brawl, like all the people in the street and the Proud Boys, like just they scrapped, like they brawled it out, right? People got stabbed. There was just all sorts of madness that happened. And I was trying to get an interview with Enrique Taro, and he cut in front of me, and I was like, "Hey, Enrique, you good? You guys good?" or something along those lines. He turned around and was like, "Yeah, I got one of their radios." And I was like, "Oh, okay, I guess that's what's happening." And then he walked off. My whole intention was like, "Hey, can I talk to you?" You know what I mean? Like, "Hey, man, what's up? Are you all right? Can I get your attention for a minute?" That kind of thing. But it's almost like a text message, like people interpret it their own way. And so that moment, people are like, "Oh, he must be best friends with this dude."
He's homies with Enrique.
Exactly. And I'm like, my whole thing, I didn't want to be like, "Hey, do you remember me from Portland a month and a half ago? I interviewed you for 38 seconds. Could I get some more of your time? Because I'd like to know what your motivation is for being out here."
So
you know what I mean?
No opportunity to say all that.
There's no. And so I'm like, "Hey, you good?" And "Are you guys good?" And he's like, "Well, I got a radio." And I'm like, and then my response was, "I guess that's what's happening." And I was like, "All right." And he bounced out. And I was like, "Well, there you go." But people assumed immediately, like, he's a Proud Boy now. We knew CJ was a Proud Boy. He must be a racist.
So just so I have it clear, like Enrique, this guy Enrique or whatever, is supposedly or not supposedly, for sure he's like the head of this specific Proud Boy group or whatever.
Yeah, he's like I don't know if it's an international or national chairman. He's a chairman is the last title that I think I remember him being a part of. Like his chairman title is what he is.
Mm-hmm. So. And, man, it's just kind of silly. Like, for one, I don't know what the footage looks like. I don't know what really occurred. I like you, so I might be biased and support where you're at with whatever happened and whatnot. But it seems silly that part of what sounds like got misconstrued in that. Sorry, the cat's kind of distracted.
No, he's cool.
Part of what sounds like got misconstrued in that is like treating another human being as a human being. So despite your intention of asking him, "Yo, you're good," like when your intention, let's say, is like you said, to "Are you good to talk to me for a minute?" Mm-hmm. Right? But it's like, I don't know. I think personally, if I was in that experience, even if he wasn't good, I'm or even whatever, I might be asking that question personally just because I'm curious. Like, is this man all right? Like, this was I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say that otherwise, but like on a human level, I want to know everyone around me is good at the conclusion of some crazy shit like that.
Yeah.
So I might ask, if I'm in a conflict between, let's say, ultimate, like worst extreme, like deeper than where you were at, that it was a pro-government group and a militia group, and they were like violently confronting each other. That was going to end in like devastating loss of life and chaos. At the end of that, if I'm on the ground with my fucking leg blown off, and the guy next to me is like, he has a shot that went through his head, and I can't tell if he's alive or not, but I see him move, I might be like, "Yo, you good?" I don't care if we're on like opposite sides of the fence or whatever, but on the most basic, like human level, like, are you good? Like, you're a person. Yeah. I want you to be good.
Yeah, absolutely.
That might just be my personal perspective.
No, man. It's a human aspect of things. And like you said, there's like, even in that event, I don't want to go dig into it too far because I know you probably got other questions and whatnot. But I think that like even in that, like the fight broke out and you're trying to keep your head on a swivel and like things are flying from behind, bottles are getting thrown. One of the guys that I was with down there, Hunter, got hit in the side of the head with a rock. and he's press media the whole way through, but someone smacked him in the head with a rock, and like, there's stuff happening all around you, and you're doing your best to cover it in front of you and shine your, put your camera on what's happening, and you're going through clouds of pepper spray, and it's just kind of like, holy crap, and there's a lot happening. And then in the thick of it, there's a guy on the ground getting beat on pretty bad. A whole group of people are just wailing on him, kicking him, punching him. And so like, that's when you're like, your moral kicks in. You're like, I can't stand by and let these people beat he's already down. You know what I mean? Like at this point, everything's excessive. Like everything. If they wanted to fight it out,
I agree.
Let them fight it out. But the dude went down. Like even in boxing, like, all right, back up, let him get up, give him a standing 8 count, whatever. If you want to keep fighting, let him.
That was some shit I did see that like. I don't use my Twitter a ton or whatever, but I'm like, there was some shit I saw out of that Million Man Mega March or whatever. Mm-hmm. That's where you were at in DC.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's something I saw out of that. That was a confrontation, between like BLM and Trump supporters or whatever. Someone like got pushed to the ground, and this woman had like kicked the guy in the head. I'm sure a bunch of people saw this. Mm-hmm. And part of what I thought watching that was like, the people that are on the streets like fighting right now are a bunch of bitches. Cause I know like having like minimal fight experience or whatever, like if this is a sanctioned fight and I put your ass on the ground in the first place, I'm not going to kick you while you're down because I'm taking this fight like a man. This is, mano y mano. Like this isn't I'm not going to kick you while you're down. That's just some bitch ass shit to me. And I can't remember exactly what I said, but that's just what it made me feel. I was like, the people that are fighting in the streets right now are a bunch of bitches. Because I know that's not something that someone who is willing to stand behind their actions is going to go ahead and do. Or someone that's confident in their ability to defend themselves or, whatever their intention is.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I know it's kind of like, like you never do someone on the deck, you know what I mean? And that's, you see someone like getting beat down, you're like, all right, man, that's enough. You know what I mean? Like, just like old boy in Portland, just like the truck driver for you, like people were like in their mind, like this guy just tried to kill us with his truck. He tried to murder us with his truck. And so they're like, we got to get him and put a hurt on him. And you're like, all right, man, you roughed him up, but you don't know his intention. You know what's really going on. Like, but even in that moment, you're like, all right, just chill now. All right. You're not going to kill the dude. Like he didn't murder anybody. You're not going to murder him type thing. Like let the courts figure that out. And that's kind of, I don't know. Those situations are tough, man. It's really ambiguous situation all the way around the board.
Our mutual that is Andrew Mercado, right?
What's that?
And
yeah.
Our mutual being Andrew Mercado.
Mm-hmm.
What? So is this situation that it has gotten misconstrued with this moment in DC what led to him like claiming to have cut ties with you?
Yeah, tough to say, man. Like there's a lot that goes into it, and that's kind of a tough one to dig into because it's, there's just a lot going on there. You know what I mean? I'm sure he's got his reasons, and it's going to start up a whole spawn of like streamer situations that I'm not even willing to jump into. You know what I mean? Like I love Andrew, and I see him doing great things in life. You know what I mean? And 100% support everything he does. So
I like Andrew too. I like Andrew has sat in the same room with me and done a 2-hour podcast. So I'm only curious because I read that statement and it was just like, huh?
So did I. And I said the same thing.
I didn't dive too deep into the drama, so I was like, what is this?
Yeah. I said the same thing. Like I read it and I went, huh? So. And it's
let's get close to wrapping it up. I'm sure we're all ready. I don't know. I could keep going forever. But
I'm good. I know.
Question I wanted to ask.
I'm on your show right now, man. So you're good. I'm just streaming it live to my people. So you're good.
Wait, where are you? I'm just curious. Where are you in the country?
Seattle.
Seattle. Oh, you're in Seattle?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So are you like home?
I'm at a home.
Put all your business out.
No, you're good. So I'm in the process of moving right now. So like I'm kind of doing my I'm having to deconsolidate my overhead because Seattle's an expensive place. Like it's crazy expensive out here. And so in order to be able to do what I'm doing, I'm having to downscale what I have going on for my overhead. And I mean, I have to really reduce that as best I can. And I'm trying to find a place in Seattle where I can share some studio space so I can do more live feeds like this, doing interviews and stuff.
Yep.
Because it's going to get cold and there's going to be a lot of winter months that are
Dude,
going to be tough to
yo,
like be out there
I
in
don't
the
mean to
streets.
expose our business all out here,
No.
but that's something we should actually collaborate on because I see myself opening some form of like independent media studio that like goes out and partners with, you know, people like yourself who are producing independent media. So that could be something that we actually have further discussion on.
Yeah. For
outside
real.
of this.
Yeah. I mean, for real. So that's
Yeah.
kind of what I'm doing right now. So I'm in the process. I'm at this is kind of one of the I'm basically I'm in the move. I literally was boxing stuff up before I came over here to like set up a little studio space because my place is all torn apart right now while I'm moving. So I was like, all right, well, just over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My bad. But so how you're trying to downsize a little bit and trying to probably save yourself money on the living expenses that you don't necessarily, you know, utilize. You don't necessarily get value from probably because you find yourself all over the place nowadays.
Right.
How are you supporting yourself? Sorry if that's too personal of a question, but I'm just curious. Like in the independent media, I'm more so asking for my own, you know, benefit. Sure. Give me a tip here. How are you supporting the independent media grind?
So right now it's contributions, like the push itself for like my ongoing coverage is through contributions from my viewers, which is greatly appreciated through the platforms that we have, through supporters or through things along the lines of like the Cash App, PayPal, Venmo things. I've, you know, like I said, I was doing business to business sales, and so I worked my butt off. I always work hard wherever I'm at. And so I was able to put some money aside to help kind of pay for rent, things like that going forward. And I was just at a point now where like I can't afford with where I'm at, if I'm being financially responsible, to actually maintain my lifestyle, not my lifestyle, but maintain living as it is. If I keep things the way they are right now with the expenditure that it comes out of my overhead. But I'm gonna have to go back to work for a little bit, probably. I mean, and bust my ass to do this as I can. It's a tough one, man. Like I'm really trying to figure it out, you know, like how I'm going to make it work, especially through the winter months, because it's going to be really, you know, there's a lot of cold months where we're not going to be able out doing a lot of coverage. But I work really hard to to build the community that I have here, and my community has been incredibly supportive, and so. You know, and I'm just fully on like 100% grateful for their support that's made us all possible. So had it not been for that, I would be out here.
And people don't just support something that people don't give their money to something that they don't get value from. So it's a testament to the value that you're providing, the effort that you put in. Like shout out those people, but like they probably hear that enough from you. So I'll just take the time to say like shout out you for the work that you do, the effort that you put into it, your willingness to put your body on the line to bring this thing that people find value in putting their money in, right?
Yeah.
So shout out you.
Well, hey, shout out you, man. Thank you for doing you and for being a part of this whole new media push that we've got going here. That's really kind of making changes. I think, you know what I mean. I think we're definitely moving in the right direction, man. And I'm just stoked that we get to be a part of something new. You know what I mean? Something that's.
So
go ahead.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I keep thinking you're gonna stop and then you start just because the delay or whatever.
I never stop.
When in this year, like in 2020, in this crazy endeavor, you know, you've been on because tell me if you relate. It kind of feels like we shifted into like an alternate reality. Like,
sure.
This isn't the same universe I was in a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Is it? You know, like I don't know.
It's not just 2020, man. It's just the way the world's been going. You know.
Is there any point in this that like you just really wanted to quit and just go back to what you were doing before you stepped out and hit live for the first time?
Man, you know what? Yeah, there's been a couple times. You know, the very first time I ever felt that way. It's funny you say that. The very first time was down in Portland, and the federal agents were there. And I'm used to wearing a gas mask and, you know, the full face mask, you know, like the military issue, like gas mask. And they came out heavy, like really hard. And they were hitting that CS gas, like the hardcore gas that was like next level, not just regular tear gas, like the militarized gas that they had out there, weaponized gas they called it.
That shit that's illegal on like an
Yeah, like the Geneva Convention doesn't allow you to use it in foreign warfare, but they're using it right there in the streets of Portland. Everyone is, doing their thing, and the federal agent line pushed around the corner, and this Fed, like, he popped the canister and threw it at me, and it hit me in the chest, and it blew up, but it blew up like I hadn't got a chance to get my gas mask on all the way, and it just right up into my nostrils, and went straight into my lungs, right up into my eyes, and man, it just
sounds like a dense load.
It would, yeah, for real. And like immediately it just dropped me. And I was on my hands and knees, but I couldn't breathe at all. And I couldn't see anything. Every time I tried to, so I pulled my gas mask the rest of the way off, and I just couldn't see anything. It was a cloud. I'm like army crawling through like this cloud, trying to get out of the cloud of tear gas. And I finally made it to the edge, and I saw just a black figure that moved past me. And I saw a little red cross on this person's shoulder. And I just was like, medic, and this woman came over and grabbed me and kind of dragged me out of the cloud. And at first I was kind of like, I'm good. I can take tear gas. You just kind of move around it a little bit, get agile on your feet. Don't breathe too much. You know what I mean? Like, just hold your breath and close your eyes. But this stuff was in my whole system. And she was immediately started flushing my eyes out. They had to give me oxygen. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't catch my breath. And they took me to a med car, and the guy flushed my eyes really hardcore. And Ian at the time had the camera, and he came around the corner, and I was sitting on the road, and I remember just thinking, like, right then, I'm like, I'm going home. I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. Like, this is ridiculous. I don't even know what I'm doing out here. Why would I do this? Like, why would I do this? And push through it. And the other times are when, people want to get in like the comments or the chats, and I start reading some of the negativity, and people are just like throwing hate, casting shade for whatever reason. Like, oh, CJ's like this, or CJ's like that, or this is what CJ is. And it's just coming from this place where people love to fuel fire and like become part of like the antagonistic, like anger fueled people in the world that are behind keyboards, that are just anger for whatever reason. And they want to attack and cause problems. And there's times where I'm just like, you know what, man, like, whatever, I'm good on this, but then I remind myself that there's, for every a-hole that's out here talking trash in the comments that wants to say some stupid stuff, there's 100 other people that are like, hey man, we got you, thank you for doing what you do. We appreciate you being out there. Thank you for just sharing your peace of mind with us. You know what I mean? Like, it may not be everybody's cup of tea, but it's something, and it's something more than what I might've had yesterday. And maybe it's something I can take with me tomorrow. And I keep thinking that, like, every time I go out, like, I'm just going to do my best to fill the world with positivity as best I can. And I'm going to keep iterating and trying to drive that as best I can, and keep letting people talk how they want to talk. But I know that 95% of the feedback I get is from amazing people that have amazing things to say, that really want to be a part of a community that's built around positivity, growth, change. And so when it comes down to what I'm going to do is give myself pep talks, man, because there's plenty of times where I'm just like, I just don't know, man. And I wonder if I'm relevant, like, am I being relevant right now? Like, is this even something that people care about? Like, there's only a couple hundred people watching live. There was a couple thousand last time. Like, do people care anymore? And we got to stop letting ourselves be driven by algorithms, and by analytics, and by a negative comment, one out of 100 or whatever it might be, and just appreciate that we got so much more positivity in the world that we can do and be a part of, man. And it's just,
I think that for me is like it's a little pep talk, like, oh, I don't have 14,000 viewers when I go live. The fuck, like, like you said, do people care? And for a little bit, I'm moving away from Facebook now, as useful, as really as powerful, as helpful as it has been up to this point. I found it, I think, like, upsetting me more than supporting my intention, my growth, like what I'm trying to put out, what I'm trying to produce. And like, if I put out something that's like neutral or even positive, it's crazy the difference in engagement that it has in something that is like explosive, inflammatory, volatile. I put the phrase anti-lockdown in a post. It's got 200 comments on it, but I post something about whatever it does. Like, not that the engagement matters, but just speaking to the fact of like things getting boosted based on the algorithm on these platforms. It's not an accurate representation of what these platforms are trying to be heard saying.
Sure.
Right. Um,
But it's like, man, I think about it like a book, right? Like there's been people that have given me books and like, hey man, you should read this. And maybe it's not a New York Times bestseller, but I'll read it and it's given to me by someone that I trust. So I'll take the time. And it might like it. And so I've had some books that have been real life-changing experiences for me. Like, wow, it opened my eyes to different way of seeing things.
dude, I've had like 5.
Right. And so think about
books got me off of heroin.
Okay, so there you go. So think about that, man. Like that book, it may not have been a book that anybody's ever heard of. It may be a book that no one's ever even cared about. It's never made a top 10 shelf. It's never made a top 100, never made a top 1,000. But it changed your life. It changed your life in a way, in a positive way, that now you're helping change other people's lives. So we could be, and every one of us can do that. Every single person that has an opportunity to talk to people can be that book. Just reach out and try to change someone's life for the better. Do what you can to better the lives of the people around you. Take that with you every day you go out, and you could be that book. But it doesn't have to be something that, like, you don't have to be, like I said, 14,000 people watching you live. It could be that one person that changes that life you touch. That's like, oh wow, that's what I needed to hear. And I try to think about that, man, and push through all the negativity and think positively about everything. And be like, well, you know what? Like, people don't need more negativity in the world, right? We need people that are coming out of heart. We need to go ahead and keep pushing positivity and doing what we can to help do that. And there's going to be times we watch things that are negative. We're going to see things through our lens that are going to be terrible. But if we can go ahead and try to replace that with positivity, I mean, on the back end, then I think we'll do more good than we'll do bad. And when I meet my creator, I want that to be what he says to me. Like, you did better than you did more good than you did bad. Like you did the world a service, hopefully, you know?
I think like in large part, like what you're talking about with, I think a part of the servitude that we kind of spoke about before is pushing through that like self doubt and adversity and like negativity and negative talk about like whatever you're trying to do. People trying to say they know you better than you know yourself, and
Right.
like part of servitude, I think, is pushing past that, pushing beyond that, being of service. Because if we're trying to think on like a heaven versus hell, God versus the devil, like that strength to push through that is coming through God, right? And that self doubt and that negativity is coming from the devil, right? We're just trying to defeat the devil. We just got to push through, right? And I don't know. There's I think that really stood out to me is part of service is also pushing through that negativity and those moments that you want to quit, right? Because I've had a ton of them, and I've been susceptible to quitting multiple times before. My wife, you know, like I try to, you know, I want to see things through that I start, finish things that I start, and I find myself up till, you know, recently probably quitting more things than I start. You know, there's been a lot of positive things that have stuck and put me in the position to be in the place that I am today. But I think, just pushing through that. Yeah. I went on a tangent, lost a bunch of my words there. But
no. You're on point. I'm looking at my comments while you're talking. So don't feel, I mean, when I look over to the side, it's because my comments all pop up over here. Oh, so I'm seeing what people are saying while you're talking. And there's a lot, I mean, people really get behind it, man. And it's, and it comes down to, I think, like, man, there's a lot of change that'll come via the way of iterating our positivity, you know what I mean, and continually pushing that direction. But I mean, when you have all these people that push negative things your direction, and a lot of times it's because there's just things happening in them. You know what I mean? Like, I talked about this the other night, last night on my stream with my supporters. Was it a lot of the hostility that you get from people is because there's things inside them that they're not comfortable with. There's things inside them that they're hurting on. And so it's like we can't snap judgment on why they're coming at you, or what they come at you with, but kind of try to look deeper into why they're coming at you, you know, and not be reactionary, but be responsive, you know, and ask questions and try to dig a little deeper and, you know, and do what we can to better understand people and learn ourselves, you know what I mean? And you know, try to kind of be as open as possible, but and not listen to people that want to talk. There's just so much animosity and hate in the world. And, you know, the thing is, no matter what you do, when you put yourself in front of a group, you now become a public figure. You know what I mean? Like, you're a public figure, whether you want to acknowledge it or not, you're a public figure. And I had a problem with letting that be, you know, sink in. Like where I'm like, well, no, I'm just a dude with a camera that is out filming stuff. You know what I mean? Like, but people look to you for information and they look to you. And I think that if you do, like, you may not have answers, but you could at least come from a place of heart. You know what I mean? Um, but it's funny because like even in the comments, people will be like, "Oh, you know, he censors this or he censors that." Like I've never banned a single person from my channel. I think I've deleted 3 comments ever. Like my mods take care of that, and they have a really hard job of screening through it all because a lot of times, man, these chats can become dumpster fires, man, where people are just like nothing but negativity. And it's for no other reason than they're like, yeah, here's a chance for me to get this out of my system. And it
Well,
may
it's
not have anything
fucking,
to do with you.
it's disaster porn, you know? There's people just getting off to
Yeah.
getting like to dragging shit down.
And the thing is, it may not have anything to do with you at all, but you're just an opportunity for someone to like, yep, this is happening right now.
That's unfortunately a symptom of people failing people, you know?
Yeah.
Like that's a result. Like we're kind of coming full circle on a lot of this. So it's probably getting to a good place to wrap up,
Sure.
which is also a good sign of us having a great productive conversation. Is because once we get so far into it, we talk about things that just tie back to other things that we've talked about.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, unfortunately, like these chats online turning into just dumpster fires, like you said, is unfortunately a symptom of people failing people, and somehow that being, that an outlet for these people in one way or another. Like, man, I don't know. I think I've heard Rogan say this, but there could be like 100 comments and 95 of them are positive, but you're gonna let those 5 negative comments dictate like how you feel about the comment section, right? Like,
it's because I think we're programmed nowadays to like hear criticism more than we're programmed to listen to positivity. You know,
right?
Like this is what you're doing wrong.
That's what everything is a criticism of something, like or something mongering on fear, like a ton of shit.
But I think, Joe Rogan said it best. And you know what's funny is someone had said once to me, like, if you got to where you're at, where people are looking at you or listening to you, like, you can't listen to the negative or the positive comments to guide you to where you're supposed to go, because it'll change everything about what got you to where you're at. And if you like where you're at and you like what you're doing, take stock in what you're accomplishing. You know what I mean? And if you let negative comments change everything about how you operate, now you're operating under what they want you to do and how they want you to operate. But you gotta stay, like you said, stay authentic, stay true to yourself, and really hold on to the fact that like people will support you, man. You know what I mean? Like some of the most active, engaged individuals in the streams that we do are a lot of times the most negative people. You know what I mean? But we have so many other people that are in the streams and the comments that are just incredibly and uplifting, but they don't feel the need to tell you like, hey man, just want to let you know, like, I appreciate what you're doing. Like, Justin, you're a great guy, man. I love what you're operating on. I love what you do. I love hearing what you say. I love the things you've accomplished. Thank you for helping save that man's life. Those aren't things that people jump into to reach out on, but people really want to get critical for whatever reason. They feel like that's a viable thing they can offer up, and it's their right, their freedom of speech. It's hurtful, man. And I'm an emotional dude, so it's like, man, let's just talk.
Dude, I feel it. I'm fucking sensitive. You know?
For
like,
real, man.
It's silly when like I might have 1,000 messages in my message requests at one point, but the one that I open is the one that starts with FUC in all caps, and I know it probably says "fuck you" or something. Like, why is that the message that I open when all the other ones are probably a bunch of nice ass shit? Like, that's the one that I feel the need to, it's almost like I've heard activity to that related to like cutting, right? It's like a form of self-harm where like you in some way you think that you're deserving of that like negativity, so that's where you're attracted to feeding yourself. But that's some shit that I don't know enough about. I have to pee really bad, so we should probably wrap this bitch up.
No worries, man. Hey, I just want to tell you I appreciate you taking the time to bring me on your show and allowing me to go ahead and stream that live on mine, so that my people can go ahead and engage, and we could go ahead and give everyone in the community a chance to talk here. But hey, man, I want to tell you,
I appreciate having you taking the time to come on to the show. Like, it's been a great conversation, but I feel confident. I felt confident going into this conversation because of how receptive and how willing you were to take the invite and schedule with me. You were responsive. I get a lot of people. It's hard to it's hard to even want to go into the conversations with them because they don't seem too assured that they even want to have a conversation, right?
Yeah.
Like, so thanks for being willing and being open and taking the time to come on the show.
Absolutely,
I appreciate
man.
you.
Yeah, thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Anytime, and feel free to give me a call anytime if you want to set something else up.
Oh,
I know that
dude,
there's
we'll
people.
be in touch. I feel like we have a lot of work to do.
We do, and I know there's other people out there that would love to come on the show and, like you said, do some roundtable stuff, and and we'll get it set up, man. We'll get it. So everyone, look forward to that. We are one. This is Justin Gaiman, and we're gonna
At
be.
some point, we're gonna. Sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead. We're gonna be doing stuff.
But at some point, we're gonna need some sponsors to help us like support not the show, but an event where it isn't even for personal gain. It's just to support us putting together like an event where we can like have a round table for people that have found themselves in similar positions to us, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's important to have dialogue with these people and broadcast that dialogue, and then long term invite more people into the conversation. Whatever, like we said before, everything we do has a ripple effect. So like, if this is a starting block for anything, I hope it's a starting block for us. Having more podcasts with more people and supporting people and having their own independent media, and then bringing everyone together for a roundtable to have a larger discussion around some bigger issues that we're all capable of finding solutions to. We just have to take the time to hear out each other's perspectives, opinions, and ideas.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, that's great, brother. Well, hey, I'm gonna let you go. I know you're rocking right now. I know you're full. You got to take care of your cat. You got to go ahead and use the restroom. So, yeah, man. I look forward to
take care of my dog at this point.
Well, dude, you are neglecting.
This has been great. I appreciate you a lot. Anyone that listened to this far, for CJ supporters, shout out you. Appreciate you for tuning in live. That's what the fuck is up. I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. For anyone tuning in from the We Are One side, make sure you check out CJ and CJ TV. Do you want to shout out just some of your platforms that you prefer to use that people can find?
Yeah. So again, keep in mind we got CJ TV right now. We got live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. We're going to be working on the website. Will be getting dropped here pretty soon. Again, if you guys are looking to check out, which I definitely encourage you, my guy Justin here with We Are One. I put descriptions in the link, or put the links in the description for his different platforms, all three of your platforms, which are on Spotify, YouTube, and on iTunes right now. So you can go check out his podcast. And I definitely encourage it, man. And on Facebook, is there anywhere on Facebook you'd recommend people come find you, like personally or otherwise?
It's just my name on Facebook. I have a We Are One podcast page, but I haven't honestly been too active from it yet. Facebook's a fucking shithole, dude. Check out my Facebook, but don't expect to engage with me there. I'm trying to move on to more productive platforms. No offense to you, CJ, or anyone that is using Facebook as their primary platform.
No, you're
good. I am just about good on that motherfucking platform.
Tell us how you really feel, Justin.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, hey, take care of yourself, brother, and be in touch.
You as well.
We'll make things happen, all right?
Absolutely.
Later, brother.
Cue outro that I don't have.
Yeah, I don't have one either, so we're good.
Hey, let's talk in a little bit.
We'll talk it out.
I'll text you or call you or something real quick.
Okay.
Just for a debrief. All right. Peace out, brother.
All right, man. Later. So yeah, that was Justin Gaiman. I definitely recommend you go check him out, guys. I'm gonna try to hop back in on this video here, if I can. And oh, there we go. Okay, I'm back in here. All right, cool. So good conversation, good dude. Like I said, he was out in Minneapolis. He reached out to me and asked if I wanted to come on his show, and we were trying to figure out the best way to do that. So this was the best way to do it, was just to kind of bring him on and do it live here. And then I think he's going to rebroadcast on his show later on. So, but it was good. Yeah, I saw a lot of comments coming in here, and man, some of them got my cheeks red. Like I was like, some things I want to comment on. But as we're talking about, like not feeding into the negativity of things, and man, I really am going to do my best to not, you guys, if you know me well enough that I'm not going to feed into negativity or drama. I don't pander to it. I don't play into it. I do everything I can to avoid it. And I'm going to keep doing streams like these as best I can to keep putting content out, talking to different people from different walks of life with different life experiences that'll hopefully give all of us a better understanding of what's going on in the world around us. But yeah, Justin, it's just great that we have an opportunity to reach out and talk to people. You know what I mean? And we're all reachable. So people have questions and they want to know answers. Like, feel free to send in an email or whatever you want to do. I'm more than happy to talk. But and we're moving into the holidays right now. And it's funny. Some of the comments you guys are just ridiculous. It just blows my mind. Some of the people that are in here, that the way that they go about their flow is just, oh God. Like, I can't imagine what their personal life must be like if this is how their public interaction is. You know what I mean? So anyway, but I'm going to be doing some work moving into this week. Hopefully we'll be able to get it dialed in with some of the native tribes here in Washington State, and talking to them about some of the just the views of the indigenous people about things that are happening, going on right now with Thanksgiving, and with the protests, things that have been happening in the world, how that's affected the indigenous people of these areas, and American politics, and how that affects some of the sovereignty of these. And I hope I'm saying that word right, but these sovereign nations, these native tribes. And I'm really curious about it. And I talked about it a little bit before. And I'm just excited to go ahead and have more opportunities to kind of get involved with better understanding things. Because, like I said, I'm very curious myself as to all the things I just mentioned. So, and I'm going to keep the door open to any questions you guys might have, any things that you guys are curious about. Feel free to ask. And as we move into it, I know we're going to keep pushing, like I said, keep pushing in the right direction and doing everything we can to keep that vibe going. Yeah, real fast. Is there any questions? Mike Holt, big shout out to you and your wife. Love you guys. I think you're amazing people, and I'm really glad to have you in my corner. So thank you very much. Again, a shout out to all my mods as well, who are working so hard behind the scenes here, making it all possible. I'm just going to keep doing the best I can, guys. I don't have all the answers, but I know that the people behind me are doing a phenomenal job of helping make that happen. But yeah, I really my guy, his name is Justin Gaiman. It's Goeman. We Are One is the podcast. And I know he's had a chance to talk to a lot of people, and he's just open to conversation. So it's really cool. It's a good chance to get a chance to, it was great to get a chance to talk to him. Yeah, we're gonna keep grinding, guys. I'm not gonna be too long in the wrap up here, but I'll be hopefully back in tomorrow, doing some Q&A with some folks that I've got lined up in the docket here. So stay tuned, and I'll be seeing you guys very soon. Okay, I love you guys and appreciate all the support and contributions. It does make it all possible. So thank you very much. Have a great night. This is me trying to wrap it in the most subtle way possible. But I'm going to wait for another 20 seconds. So we hit the 2 hour mark, we'll be golden. But I do encourage you guys, if you have questions, or if you're curious about me or my motivations or whatever you might be curious about, Bobby or anyone else, feel free to send a question via email, and I'd be happy to talk with you about it. Or we can even chat on the phone if you really want to get further into the conversations that people are, for whatever reason, don't want to have. So, but I'll be talking to you later. Have a great night. Love you guys. Be good. And this is me wrapping it.